we have Bjarke, who's going to do an Ask Me Anything session. You can ask him literally anything within the confines of the Code of Conduct.
That's all my questions.
And just to make this a bit more fun, we are going to use this. If anyone has seen this before, it's a catch box. This is a microphone, and it's soft, which means I can throw it at anyone I like. And you can then speak into it like this, hello. And people on the stream will be able to ask questions too. We have a Slido, so if you're part of the Slido stream, you're not going to be able to ask them here. Please ask them in person. You'll put up your hand and we'll just throw the box at you. On the stream, we'll take a couple of questions there as well. Hopefully you all enjoyed your lunch too. I'm going to just demonstrate how this works. I've nominated Kevin. I'm sorry, Kevin. And I'm going to throw the box at Kevin, and Kevin's going to ask a question. Here we go. Nearly a disaster. Hey, Kevin.
Hello. Thank
you.
Okay.
So, the way this is going to work is, Kevin, you're going to choose someone to chuck it at. Someone's going to put their hand up and ask Bjarke a question. You're going to choose someone to throw this at. And then we'll hopefully keep this going, moving, for as long as there is questions. So, anyone who has a burning question about Umbraco, about anything, put your hand up.
Come on. Oh, no, I've got to throw it.
No, you've got to throw it. Hey.
What's the timeline for headless going into the core?
We are aiming for Umbraco 12, so that will be, I think it's end of June next year, and 6 weeks before it will be in a release candidate, but we are working quite closely with the community on this task. So we have a headless community team helping, and we also had some extra just sessions with the community because it's a thing we know a lot of agencies built themselves already. So we want to try to make one that is flexible enough to cover all these use cases.
Fantastic. Someone else, put your hand up. Ask a question. I know you're all asleep. I'm going to do this until you're awake. Got someone at the back. Wait. Oh.
Hello. You know, the situation with like Umbraco 7 is end of life and you can't upgrade from 7 to whatever you can migrate. Going forwards, where there's like 10, 11, 12, is that always part of the plan that it can be upgraded continually? Or is there a situation where it could happen in the future that it gets stuck on 12, for example, and then you've got to do another migration? Just to say to clients, because clients are asking now at this point, what am I going to have to do this again in 4 years' time?
We try to avoid it, but we are aware we are behind on technology on the front end right now. We are still using AngularJS, and we have a big project to basically get rid of this big framework that is end of life. One of the big problems here is part of our part of our public API is also the AngularJS API. So when we get rid of this, a lot of things will break. But we are very aware about migrations of content, like we did from 7 to 8. That was horrible for a lot of you to migrate these data. And this is something we try to avoid and make in smaller steps.
Fantastic. I'm going to ask a question. So, Rick, you're going to have to chuck this the entire way across the room. Let's see how this is going to go.
Oi.
Hello. With the CMS, with V13, where the new back office is targeted, could you talk a little bit about the plan to make that process as easy as possible for people upgrading? Because packages that have used the new UI or they're using heavy things in Angular are going to have to upgrade as well. How are you as HQ going to help package devs in that scenario to make sure V13 is as painless as possible as well?
Yes. So first of all, the process was divided into 3. So the first one was to make the UI library components as a separate thing. which we already shipped. So you can use the buttons, all the UI elements, basically. The next step is to define the public API now, which will be Umbraco only instead of AngularJS. And now we're building it. Normally we only have 3 or 6 weeks of release candidate period. We are aware this is a big one, so we plan, like Umbraco 9, to have around half a year. Basically to give package offers time to catch up. But if you're making new custom code in the back office right now, we advise you to use the UI library components, because those will continue to work.
Fantastic. Okay, Warren, that's a letdown.
Sorry. So following up on Callum's question, talking about LTS and 13 and the new backend, and that we expect things to break. Does the words LTS and expectation that things are going to break, do they sort of, what's the plan to make them fit together?
Not sure I understand the question.
Well, the implication is that you want a long-term supported version that's also going to be like a stable version, that we want a large we want the entire user base on. If the expectation is that, we're going to be breaking things, and this is an LTS version, does that create any problems with the planning for LTS?
So the LTS is kind of fixed based on the Microsoft underlying .NET framework LTS versions, and we just try to come with a new version of Umbraco as soon as possible, so we can use as long time of the 3 years long-term support Microsoft provides as possible. But in a perfect scenario, we wouldn't make major breaking changes in the LTS versions. But on the other hand, when we are on legacy technology or end-of-life technology, it's also not a cool thing if we want to ship a new LTS version and supporting that for a long period with something that is already end of life. So that's the balance, basically.
Thank you.
I was going to just take a chat from a question from Slido. There's a little bit of an argument going on about Blazor. What is the future of Blazor in Umbraco? Does it have a future?
We are not looking into it yet, but Microsoft are doing a lot of things, and we know you can use Blazor. But I think the future of Umbraco is more to have headless as a first-class citizen instead of only Razor templates, and thereby you could still use Blazor, but you could also use Vue, React, whatever is. Yeah, I'm sure there's a new framework today.
Fantastic. Hopefully that settles that. Yeah.
Will the new blocklist grid be coming into hardcore?
Eventually, I think yes. I don't have a timeline, but that is the plan, I think.
Ask Morten Christensen on Twitter or something, I guess. Any questions? Warren, you're right by the cameras. This is going to be great fun. Sorry.
Hello.
Sorry, Eric. Definitely on purpose.
So what are you most excited for about in the future, Bjarke? What's the most exciting feature coming down the pipeline?
I think short term it is the headless API. When I started Umbraco 4 years ago, I have worked with headless solutions for 2 years already, so I was kind of surprised. Short term, definitely the headless.
I'll throw a question in now and let Warren keep that for a sec. This is going to be a nightmare. So we know the roadmap up to V13. That includes the new back office. You said V12 is headless. V11 is out in 2 weeks. Yesterday, maybe? Something like that?
Yes.
What's V14? When can we expect to hear what the next step on that roadmap is? Because you were very good at publicizing that early on. When do we hear what's next?
It's a good question. We already opened the conversation with the community team we have, just to have inputs, but we are not settling on anything yet. We are still just collecting inputs. Roadmaps are good, but they shouldn't be too fixed. We need to be agile if something is certainly more important. Yeah.
Fantastic. Warren's got the box.
I think the top shelf deserves a go.
Yes.
So I'm looking at Marky Mark. I'm sorry. You're going to get this.
Wait.
I don't know. Can't think of anything to say. You enjoying it still?
I'm enjoying it.
Good. That's all I wanted to know. Oh.
Yeah. Hello. I have one question, Bjarke, about processes. Maybe what recently, what change made you feel like you are doing a maybe better work as a team inside of Umbraco?
So what made me feel we did a better work as a team? And
Was there any change in your processes, maybe ways of working, the way how you release or work on the code for the Umbraco products and the cloud, etc.? What made you feel happier and more satisfied at work?
No, I definitely think the release schedule is a good thing, where agencies can predict when releases will become and basically sell in hours up front because they know there will be a new major at some point, compared to back in the days where suddenly there just was a new major version.
We've got one at the front.
Good throw. With the bringing of headless into the core CMS, can you see a sort of future where you decouple the view engine from the content editing engine and actually serve potentially two products? Is that something that's been considered in HQ? Is this
When you say view engine, what do you exactly mean?
the front-end rendering engine? So the Razor pages they ship with 10 and will ship with 11.
Yeah, as I said, I hope in the future we can consider headless as a first-class citizen, and thereby you could say it's also just separated because that's the nature of headless.
But
right?
would you need to ship a view engine with the core? Would you separate out in terms of kind of rolling it out? So you could serve potentially just the Umbraco core package, which would be the headless and the back office, and then you could plug in whatever view engine you wanted to the front of it.
Yeah, that is what I mean with a first-class citizen, but I still think there is the room for the Razor templates because you have more freedom when you have the full API compared to a headless API.
Okay.
That's disappointing.
Sorry. Do you have any plans to bring in Entity Framework at any point soon?
Yes, we are working on it. So the plan is to bring it in and not necessarily use it ourselves, but use it for the migrations, so we don't have our own migrations, and have our database schema available for you to make all the joins and everything. But the first part, just continue with our NPOGO queries to the same database. But that is what we're aiming for, hopefully for 12 also. But it's a bit up in the air. Right now, the new back office is the first priority. And next, it's headless. And if we have the time, we will definitely try to bring that. It is a feature request we hear quite often.
People in the chat watching live, please don't forget you can ask questions. I noticed the Blazor argument has stopped, which is great. But if we could have another from you, that would be awesome as well. Eric.
So, as we know, Umbraco is not well behaving in load balance environments between examine and neuter. Do we have any information in which Umbraco version we might decouple dependency on neither of them?
We are also aiming for 13 here, so we're basically aiming for having lazy loaded content. So you don't need to have all the content in the server memory, and thereby you could have what's called a hybrid cache or a second level cache as Redis or whatever would make sense, or just the database. Right now we actually use the database as a second level cache because we save the models into a read model in the database that is faster to load.
I'll put a follow-up one onto that. Any plans to use the distributed cache in .NET instead of, say, new cache, something like that? So it could be provider-based or something.
That is definitely something we want to look into, but we haven't started the task yet, so it's not designed yet. We just know we want to do something for the very big sites like the European console with 700,000 pages. I'm sure a lot of them a lot of those pages are not visited every day, so it's kind of waste there in memory all the time.
Another headless question for you. Is it going to be just REST for launch, or will it be GraphQL and headless?
Just REST. We don't have the tooling right now to make a GraphQL. The way it happens in hardcore is because they have their own database, Postgres database, and we don't want to bring in a new database also. So it's not on the plan. But I know there is a community package working on it, so that's cool.
Thank you. I really don't want to throw this.
You should, yeah. So you're responsible, isn't it?
Anybody? Go on, Jonathan.
Code Garden.
Yes.
So, I mean, the
That wasn't a question.
Well, there's millions of questions, but I suspect the number one is, can we move it to somewhere else? Can we get back to Copenhagen? Let's answer with that one.
I'm not sure that I'm the right one to answer that, but next year it will be in Odense again, I know.
I knew that was the answer.
And I love Odense. It's my home city.
And the dates are announced. If anyone needs to know, they're the Trina 14th to the 16th of June. I don't know if Trina's here. Sounds about right. Something like that. And the CFP is open currently, so submit your talks. We'll take a couple of questions from the live audience, from the online audience. So, if the back office is being de-angularized, what are you planning to use instead? From Robert Dawson.
So we are not planning to marry a new massive framework. Instead, we are relying on web standards because web standards have come quite along the past years. So we build on web components, and you can basically bring your own framework, whether it's React or Vue or Angular. They all can build Vue component or web components.
So the back office isn't going to use like an off-the-shelf framework for routing or anything like that?
No, we are using small libraries. We're using a library called Lit to make some of the boilerplate of the web components. But no big framework.
Excellent. Anyone else with a question in here? No. Let's go to Craig for a sec. So Craig's asking, when will we be able to use other DBs than SQL Server, and I guess SQLite counts within that too?
We don't have the plans currently. It needs to be community projects if something happens. We have done a lot to make it possible. So the way both SQL Server and SQLite is implemented, it should be something similar just to do if you want to have Postgres or whatever. But the thing is, we don't have a big enough test suite, so we still have quite a lot of manual tests. And if we add one more database provider, it's just add up test in that test matrix, and we don't have the capacity to do that.
Craig's actually asked here, he's edited his question, say, thinking of Linux. So what are people's options for databases running on a Linux environment, or let's say a non-Windows environment?
SQL Server is cross-platform, and it works perfectly fine on Linux.
Cool. Carl's got a question.
Carl?
Following on from Craig's question then, so is Linux going to be fully supported from HQ from a support point of view as well? Or is it already supported from HQ?
In the future it will be. We are looking into how we can train our own people to know more about Linux. But right now we just don't have the skills in-house. But definitely it is something we are looking into.
Thank you. So I was earlier learning that people saying Umbraco could be run on a fridge because of .NET. Is there maybe a thought of maybe headless or Umbraco running on an Azure function, and then maybe the front end is on a static web app? Is that something that you've been thinking about?
Yes, thinking about, but it's a big task.
Yeah.
We are trying to make it more cloud native in general, trying to get rid of all the files and the file system and stuff like that, and that's the first step. But it is our dream also, just to spin up back office as a function, because it's only used, say, 1% of the time a website lives.
And watch my DK Fest talk next week, or the recording of it, where I have it running on a function. Hans got a question.
Where's...
Good catch.
Yeah, so kind of two questions in one. Will you provide more kind of integrations with Cloudflare and things like that, or will you provide like is it alternatives and stuff like that? So it's kind of two questions in one. In the new versions.
So you're thinking of Umbraco Cloud, or
both Umbraco Cloud and the standalone?
On the standalone, we don't know about Cloudflare, but of course you can use Cloudflare. But it's not the intention that CMS should know anything about Cloudflare.
Hello. So we have two questions here. One from Rob. Was Hacktoberfest good for Umbraco this year compared to previous years?
I think it was, if I remember correctly, there was a bit fewer PRs, but the quality was higher, and that is just super fine.
More contributors.
More contributors. That's just cool. Yeah.
It's a challenge we faced at the hackathon yesterday, where in 2018 we could have 70 people in a room and fix 70 bugs in Umbraco, and I'm not sure there probably is, but there's probably not 70 open issues on the issue tracker now that someone could easily pick up and achieve in a day. So maybe a testament to the quality of the core, that the contributions has also improved. A great one from Matt. When are you launching your own cookbook? I loved your baking show at Code Garden. You made everything look so simple. Yourself and Elitza, this is referring to your...
Yes, I think we need to give all the credit to Elitza. So no cookbook from me.
You just turn your back and the cake is done.
Exactly.
Let's take some questions from in here. Who else has got a question? Come on, don't be shy. Matt Wise, right at the front. Whoa.
So with the de-angularization, as it was framed by Robert, you mentioned packages being able to bring their own frameworks. Do you envision multiple packages having different frameworks and the issues that might cause with one package using Vue, another one using React, and the mess that could create for the editor experience?
Yes, it is something we have considered, but we don't think it's a big problem, because most of these frameworks will be loaded from a CDN anyway, so you most likely have them on your machine. But yes, modern day web things are also more centralized and isolated with shadow DOMs and stuff, so you can isolate your things inside. So we think it will work perfectly fine.
Warren at the back.
I've definitely not got the angle for that.
Try, it's part of the fun. Whoa, hey!
Hey! Is there any plans for an official Docker image?
No official plans, but we like when especially you and the community are making pull requests to make it better. But no, not currently.
I think we should pick on someone up the top again.
Oh, yeah.
Adam Shallcross, turn around. Throw it at Adam.
Where's Shallcross?
we've got any questions. Go on.
Ahoy. Thinking about Umbraco's release cadence, there's some talk about the speed of it and the speed at which majors are coming out. Why does Umbraco need 2 majors a year? Is it making that many breaking changes that quickly? Why that fast?
Yes, it's an excellent question. It is a balance. In the past, we kind of hide breaking changes in minor versions. We don't want to do that anymore. But the thing is, we have a lot of dependencies, not just .NET, which is having a release cadence of 1 year. I just looked up at NuGet. The implicit NuGet packages installed is 200. So there's so many dependencies, and we just want to bring the newest versions to you instead of being behind. So that is the main reason. We don't want to make more breaking changes, but we also see quite a few community pull requests with tiny breaking changes that most likely nobody will ever hit. And it's also just annoying if you have this cool feature and you have to wait a complete year. So it's a balance by the end of the day. And we think half a year is the best fit.
Thank you.
Great shot. That just reminded me about decoupling and things like that and relying on third parties. And there's ImageSharp, and they're changing the license for version 3. And I think I asked a question on the MVP Slack and about have you found out about what license implications it will have on us installing Umbraco as agencies or customers themselves? Like, is anyone liable for paying a license fee for ImageSharp? Have you found out that yet?
Version 3 is not released yet, and if he hasn't changed his mind with the license, then there is a transitive clause. So if you are relying on ImageSharp using a transitive or as a transitive dependency, like you are when using Umbraco, then you are excluded from it and allowed to use it. But just in case, and just because it's better architecture, we have re-architectured how we rely on it. Also because of some feedback from Umbraco 9, where I think 9 had been out for 1 month when ImageSharp 2 came and had cool features, but we couldn't bring them because it was a breaking change. So now it's isolated in its own NuGet package, so we can make one side by side and then let you opt into using a new version instead of the default one, or whatever we should call it.
Okay.
Let's take a question from the online audience. Emma Garland says, it's great to see some decent progress in Umbraco since a year off. Are there any areas that particularly need community help with regards to contribution?
I would like more help on the test suites, so especially the Playwright test suite. We have one man now on my team working full-time on QA and writing a lot of tests. But it's just, they bring so much value. Right now I think we have like 105 tests, and they execute on each pull request, and it's really a good way to know if we are breaking something. One of the things he's working on is to boot Umbraco in different configurations and with different, also code configurations, not just JSON configurations, because this is the hardest part right now. If I look at coverage, you can clearly see, it's because of this setting, and we can't just change it. So that's a massive project, and we understand the community can't do that. But as soon as we have that, it should be possible to configure Umbraco in a special state and write your test for that.
Awesome. Thank you, Emma. Any questions from the house? Ravi.
Hello. Are there any plans to do more work on making things like personalization and language options out of the box better?
I'm not completely sure what you are seeking, but no, we are going the DXP way here. So we try to make interfaces where possible for personalization and to integrate with these tools in general.
We'll take another one from the online group. So Owen Jones asks, will the planned lazy loading of new cache items be applied to media as well? Could we ever see in the future media items being published and unpublished in the same way as content?
Also an excellent question. Again, it's too early. We haven't designed the feature, so it's great input to when we do it. But in general, we are also internally looking into why are media that different from content. Some media makes sense to have language variants for, and publishing and unpublishing and so on. So it is it's definitely something we're looking into if there is good reasons, because maybe we can even simplify what we are doing by making it the same.
I'll jump in again then. Something close to my heart is the block list, and I know that there was discussion about putting element types in the database or in the cache, maybe individually. Any update?
No, but it's still part of our plans for 13. We need it for other tasks. We also want to bring what is called block level variations, I think we call it. So consider the grid. If you want to have a grid that is not variant, so you share the structure on different languages, but the blocks can vary. And for that feature, we will need it anyway. So we kind of see that task as a subset of the other task.
Similarly, being able to like schedule publishing of a block would be awesome, or unpublish a block or whatever. I can dream. Any questions from the house? We've got one at the back. Go on, Ravi. Sean. Oh, way!
Are there any plans to have restrictions in the node tree? I see a lot of projects that have one node and they don't want the client on the other end to create another type of this node, or have just one subset of another one, just more kind of permissions available in the tree.
Currently no plans, but it sounds like a good idea. So feel free to write it as a feature request, and we can discuss how it should work, and hopefully some of you could also opt in and help working on it.
There's a decent number of community packages that are doing that in various ways as well, so there's clearly a demand. So maybe a few people can bash heads together and come up with a cool solution. We've got another question from the online group from Luke Peters, or maybe it's more of a comment. I think media should be handled as content, also with member access rights, so you can actually make media unavailable for members that don't have rights. I guess this is coming along the lines of Richard Soapman's Media Protect or something like that, being able to lock things out. It feels like, from what the chat is saying, media needs a bit of love, perhaps.
Yes, I agree, and at the same time I also want to bring better abstractions, so it's also easier just to integrate to real digital asset management systems. But yes, we can also up our game in the media section. But again, it's just back to resources, and if it's something we want to do, just don't have the resources right now.
So we have 5 minutes left. Enough time for a couple more questions. Anyone in here? Yes, I was going to say we should pick on someone up there.
Oh, thanks for coming closer, yeah.
At least you've woken up now.
Where are they? Because I can't see.
Is there any plans to make Umbraco Forms open source, or have more sections of Umbraco Forms to be open source for us to work with that more?
I don't think so, not to my knowledge.
Who's next?
Who's next?
After forms and workflows and deploy, are there any areas or sub-products in your spectrum of site that you are planning to either buy or build as a product for Umbraco?
No, currently, but we are, of course, looking if it makes sense. From my point of view, it's mostly to have small things just to make the integrations more to make sense. There's a lot of tools out there like personalization. Maybe we need something more just to have a full interface for such a tool, but we have no plans yet.
And one more, A/B tests. Is it something like this on the list of interest, or?
It's interesting, but right now I think your marketing suite are doing a great job on that, and we have the underlying framework, which is what your marketing suite are relying on. So it should be possible to other tools to integrate to it also as a DXP.
We have one more question. Fernando, this is the last one. Good catch.
Hello. I think it's maybe a silly question, but I wanted to ask it anyway. Is there any plans or ideas, thoughts to help anyone who is left behind, so using old versions of Umbraco to move and progress to a latest version or something like that? So for example, a package that will assist someone from Umbraco 7, 8, 9 to move straight to 11 or something.
We don't have plans currently, but it is something we always would like to help with. So as a rule of thumb, we're not making new things for 8 or taking in new pull requests, but if it's something that can help migrations, it's something we are looking at.
Fantastic, and that's time. So thank you everyone for your questions. Thank you everyone online also, and thank you Bjarke. Let's give him a round of applause.